Hey guys, it's Davin here at Brewbitz.com. Behind the camera as usual we've got James. Say hello James. Today then I thought we would brew up something new, and Festival have brought out a new beer kit. They've cleverly called it Dune Bar because this is a clever clone of a very famous popular beer from Cornwall called Dune Bar. So, thought we'd brew one up and then perhaps do a little bit of a taste test a little bit later on to see how close it comes to the real thing. So, what we're going to need to brew this up. So we're obviously going to need a fermenting bucket to brew it up in. And then we're going to need a couple of things to put it in. So I'm going to kind of split it. I'm going to put some in a king keg and I'm going to put some into bottles. And then we need a few other things. So we need some steriliser to sterilise everything with. I've got my trial jar with my hydrometer in it. I've got the thermometer down here. I've got my spoon for stirring everything. I've got my bottling wand for obviously bottling. And I've got my siphon to move things around. Okay, now we've got all that. Should we get brewing? And there's a lot to get in. Okay, so first of all we've got our instructions. We've got some beer yeast. We've got some Dune Bar Amber Ale hops. We've got the priming sugar. We've got a small amount of brewing sugar to go in the kit, I presume. And then we've got a nice big pouch of liquid malt extract. Now, this is quite gooey and quite thick, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull off a bowl full of hot water so we can pop this into and make it a little bit less viscous. So now I've got my hot water, we just simply lower that in, and that needs to be left for about 10 minutes just so it can warm up. So in that 10 minutes I'm going to put my kettle on to boil because I need 3 litres of hot water, and whilst that's boiling I'm going to get and sterilise my fermenter and my long spoon. It's had about 10-15 minutes now in my hot water and it's become a lot more runny. So I'm going to take it out and give it a quick wipe down, get rid of some of the water. Hands dry as well. And then with a pair of scissors, you simply chop the top off. Find a way in. This is where you're going to get a little bit gunky fingers, but hey ho. And in here is all our liquid malt extract, so we just lovingly pour that in. Now you're not going to get everything out, but I've got a little couple of tricks for that. Okay. Almost there. Right. So our kettle of boiling water is over here, and in here I've got 2 litres of boiling water already. So I'm going to pour most of it in here. I'm going to clean this spoon off a second. And then with some of the leftovers that I've got, I'm going to take the pouch and I'm going to pour some into the pouch. Being really, really careful because obviously it's just off the boil. And just gently, using your spoon, lift up the really hot water from the bottom up the sides, and it will start to melt, to dissolve the liquid malt extract that's in there. You get a bit of a stir around in the bottom, so you can get a bit more out. Let's pop that back in for a second. That's one. And I've got quite a bit more left in there, so I'm going to go for another shot on this as well. And then whilst that's doing, I'll put the rest of my water in the bucket. And I'll put the kettle on for another litre of boiling water. Sweet, so that's the last of the 3 litres. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the larger pack of sugar. So this is one they've called dextrose. And this is going to help increase the alcohol content. So I'm just going to literally pop that in as well. Mix it all in so all the thick liquid malt extract becomes combined with the water. Lovely. Now what we need to do is we need to top it up. Luckily I've got my long tap here. We need to top it up to 23 litres with cold tap water. Right, so I've given it all a good stir together, and then the next thing to do is with our thermometer is to check the temperature is below 25. I've already done that and I can tell you it is. And I've also prepared one earlier because here's a sample I've taken in the trial jar with my hydrometer, and it's coming out at 1.044. So we'll note that down, and all we have to do now is find my yeast, which is all the way over here. And we need to sprinkle our yeast on top. Now, somebody's put my scissors somewhere. Where are my scissors gone? Oh, they're back in the drawer. Ha! So what I'm literally doing is sprinkle the yeast on top. So, now, don't need those anymore. So on my lid goes. And now this is going to go in my warm place between 18 and 22 degrees C. And it's going to sit there for 5 days. It's been 5 days since we started the Dune Bar, and it's been frothing up nicely, and it's settled down quite a bit now. Come on in, James, have a look at this. So it's now time to add our dry hops. Now, I'm going to pop the lid back on, so I just want you to have a quick look at that. Let's get the dry hops out first of all. So the dry hops are some hop pellets, and you can, here we go, you can open this packet and sprinkle them straight in, but what you might find will happen is they'll swell up and then they'll sink to the bottom. You'll have about this much pellets and you'll lose about 2 to 3 pints of beer to it. So what I like to do is I've got a bit of other stuff here, I like to put my hops into a straining bag, and here I've just got a coarse straining bag, a small one, but this has been in my drawer. Although it's clean, I don't want to take any risks by infecting anything in there, so I'm going to sterilise it, and the way I'm going to do that is with some cleaner steriliser here. I'm going to put half a teaspoon into a saucepan. I've already boiled my kettle. It doesn't take very much in there. Here we go. And a bit like in the old-fashioned days when Great Gran used to boil her socks on the hobs, I am literally going to boil my hop bag, or straining bag as it now is, for 1 minute, just to make sure there's no nasties in it. Cool, so it's been boiling for a minute. I keep just basically pressing it down to make sure that all the bubbles that build up, so everything gets covered. And so over to the cold tap for a good swill off and get rid of all that boiling water so we can at least pick it up. Oh, that's hot. Still hot. Give it a good rinse off. Go. Alright, let's find the end. There's our end. And now, I'm going to literally open the hop pellets. Okay, nice and gentle, easy going. Nothing too massively aromatic. And now we're going to tie a little knot into this to make it so it's like a tea bag. All the hops are going to swell up in there, and they're going to impart all of their lovely aromas and some of their bitterness into the beer. So I know we've got a lot of yeasty scum over the top, but that's fine. Let's break through it and drop it down in. Okay, so now we need to leave those just infusing in there for the next 48 hours. My hops have been set in the Dune Bar beer now for 48 hours. Now I know in the instructions it says leave up to 5 days, but I do tend to find that the longer you leave it, the more bitter you get from it. And I don't really like hugely bitter beers, so I like to take it out a couple of days before. So These have only had 48 hours, and there's quite a lot of beer in there. Remember, as I said, this is why I put it in a straining bag, and you can have a good little squeeze like that, and you can recover a lot of beer. I've got a lot of sediment down at the bottom of this bucket, so what I'm going to do down here, James, I've got myself a sterilised bucket along with my siphon, and I'm just going to siphon off this beer now into, get it down that second bucket. And I know, as I always get from this, I'm still using a simple siphon, giving a quick good suck. If you don't want to use a simple siphon, you can use an auto siphon, which you get a quick pump up here and it'll get the flow going for you automatically. It's up to you, whichever way you want to do. Right, this is going to take a few minutes to siphon this down through. So, James, can you make me a cup of coffee, please? As you get down lower with the beer in the bucket, I like to tilt my bucket on a slight angle, very gently, and so you can get even more of the beer out and try and leave all the sediment behind. I love the way the sediment looks as you're drawing your beer off. It looks like it's a moonscape with all the little bubbles of carbon dioxide bubbling out. It looks so gloopy and gooey. Whilst I was siphoning, James is being very, very nice and sterilised my little mini kegs and the bottles. So now I'm ready to add our priming sugar. So the way I like to do this is to put it straight into the bucket with the beer. And then every single bottle you put it into, or every keg it goes into, doesn't matter, everything's got exactly the same amount of sugar in. Now a gentle stir, just to get that all dissolved. So I've got my simple siphon again, because we're going to be doing some extra things. I've got myself a little bucket clip, it makes life a bit easier. This thing is a bottle in one, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that in a moment. Clues in the name though. But because we've taken all the sediment off, or the beer off the sediment in the other bucket, we can get rid of the sediment trap, so we don't need that anymore. I've sterilised the top as well, so everything's clean down there. So all I'm going to do now is take my bucket clip, put my siphon in, find out where my bucket clip's going to kind of whereabouts it's going to be. Oh, have I put that around the right way? Twist it around. And this means now I have got James over here, 2 hands. Okay, right, so my bottling wand is going to go on the end, but first of all I'm going to just quickly prime it. Just make my life a little bit easier. That goes on, and this makes filling up bottles a lot easier because it just goes straight in and you fill it up from the bottom rather than trying to fill it from the top, and you end up with really foamy head and you've got to wait for 10 minutes for the foam to go down, and then you can top it up a little bit again. But this bottling wand is really easy. Goes in the bottom of the bottle, press it down, it fills up, and then as it gets to the top you can control the flow. It stops as easy as that. Right, I've got a few bottles to do. Ooh, a bit of water still in that one. But of course, as soon as you fill your bottles, get your caps and put your caps on. So as you can see, I've finished bottling my bottles. So now I'm going to be using one of these. Now I know, like at the beginning I said I was going to use a king keg. I've decided I'm actually going to use 2 little small mini barrels. Check that the tap is off. Yes, it is. And I don't need the auto siphon anymore. So literally, that's going to go in there and just right down to the bottom, so it doesn't splash and go everywhere. And it takes a little bit of time for this, so very nicely. James did make me a cup of coffee. Cheers, James. Cool, so that's my 2 mini kegs filled up. So I don't need this bucket anymore. There it can go. Let me just put the lids on, so lids on of 1. Lids on of 2. So why have I put some in buckets and some in barrels? So sometimes you go to a pub and you find Dune Bar on tap, on a pool pump, flat, real ale. Sometimes though you find it in bottles. So I thought what we could do is we could put some in bottles so we can compare it and do a taste test against the real Dune Bar. And then we've got others here that I can use when I take it off to a party or something like. But the same needs to happen with both of these now. Both of these have to go into my warm space again for 48 hours. I quite happily leave them for a week so that the secondary fermentation can happen. Now the gas is trapped in here, and because it's trapped in such a small space, that's going to cause the beer to become fizzy. These guys though, as soon as the pressure reaches so far, then the gas is released. It might have a little bit of a tiny fizz to it, but most likely it's going to be quite flat. So that's it. What do I need to do now? I know what I need to do now. I've created some little labels for going on my bottles, so I need to stick those on. And then hopefully once they've had a chance for the secondary fermentation to occur, move them to somewhere cool, and then a couple of weeks time after that, pop one open and we'll have a taste test against the real thing. But for now, that's a bit wet, keep that off the water. If you're having a go at making the Festival Dune Bar kit, let us know, write your comments down below. Have you tried it? Have you found it's close to the real thing? Let me know. If you want any help, tips or anything like that, again, down in the comments below, happy to help. But for now, happy brewing, happy Dune Barring, cheers, and see you next time.